"You're fired. Take your things and get out of my house right now." Robert Harrison's words cut the air like ice blades. From the top of his 2 meters high, the 45-year-old CEO watched Maya Santos, the 28-year-old cleaning lady who had worked in her mansion for the past 3 years. Maya remained motionless in the marble corridor, holding the mop, with trembling hands. Drops of sweat dripped by his forehead, not just for the physical effort of cleaning but for something much more complicated she had been hiding for weeks. Her breath was irregular, and she discreetly pressed a hand over the abdomen, where a secret grew quietly. "Mr. Harrison, I can explain about the broken dish. It was an accident. It's not about the damn dish," Robert exploded, adjusting the fist of the Italian shirt that cost more than Maya's annual salary. "It's about your stealing food from my kitchen. My housekeeper saw you hiding bread and fruits in your bag." The accusation hit Maya as a punch in the stomach. Her dark eyes filled with tears, but she maintained the dignity she had learned from her mother, an immigrant who worked her entire life as a domestic to support 5 children alone. Maya knew exactly why she had been eating more, why she was constantly hungry, why her body was changing in ways she had not yet revealed to anyone. "I haven't stole anything, sir. I never—" "Of course not," Robert laughed sarcastically, walking around her like a predator. "Just as you would never be late, just as you never would need to go out early on your medical appointments. Maya, do you think I'm stupid? I know exactly what people do when you think they can take advantage. People like you." The words echoed in Maya's mind as shots. Robert didn't know she perfectly understood what he really meant. I didn't know she had graduated from business administration in the Philippines before immigrating. She didn't know she was talking about 4 languages fluently, who had managed a team of 20 people in Manila before sacrificing everything to try a better life in the United States. For 3 years, Maya had observed Robert making decisions in the business she could have improved in seconds. He had heard his telephone conversations with investors and perceived glaring strategic flaws. There had even found documents left on the table that revealed vulnerabilities in the company that Robert did not even dream that existed, but she has always remained silent, fulfilling her role as an invisible cleaning lady. "Mr. Harrison," Maya took a deep breath, finding the strength her grandmother always said she ran in her veins. "The Lord is making a terrible mistake. I have never stolen anything from this house, and the Lord knows it in the bottom of your heart." And there was something in Maya's absolute calm that disturbed Robert. He expected tears, supplication, despair. Instead, she stared at him with a serenity that seemed to keep secrets much larger than simple, unfair resignation. Her eyes had a determination he had never noticed before, as if she were calculating something far beyond that moment. "Don't give me this conversation." Robert turned his back on her, walking toward her office. "You have 10 minutes to get out of my property or I call security. And don't expect references. No one will want to hire a thief." Maya nodded slowly, but before she walked away, said something that made Robert stop in the middle of the hall. "Mr. Harrison, sometimes people judge others for appearances without knowing the full story. I hope that one day the Lord finds the truth about who I really am and what the Lord is losing today." Robert turned, an expression of irritation masking a growing restlessness. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means that we do not always know the real value of the people around us," Maya answered, carefully putting the mop against the wall, "and that some decisions cannot be undone no matter how much money we have." For a brief moment something went through Maya's eyes, an expression that Robert was unable to decipher completely, but that he made him vaguely reminded of something. Maybe it was the way she tilted her head, or the way her lips bow in a melancholy smile. There was something familiar on that face, something that moved with a memory buried in the back of his mind. While Maya climbed the stairs to seek her personal belongings, Robert watched her silhouette move away. There was something in those words, in the way she spoke them with a quiet confidence that did not match a cleaning lady being fired, who created a strange restlessness in her chest, as if she knew something he didn't know, as if she was keeping an asset that could change complete lives that game. What Robert Harrison couldn't imagine was that Maya Santos carried inside her not just a secret, but 2, and that the truth about the identity of these children's father was about to blow up his perfect life in a way that his money and arrogance could never fix. Even more disturbing was the fact that that feeling of familiarity he had felt by looking at Maya was no coincidence. 3 years ago, during a business trip to the Philippines, something had happened, something Robert had chosen to forget, to archive as another adventure without consequences of a powerful man on foreign land. But memories have a peculiar way of surfaced when we least expect it, especially when they carry within themselves 2 small lives that are about to completely rewrite the fate of all involved. If you are wondering that explosive truth Maya was hiding, and how unfair resignation would become something Robert could never imagine, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because some stories of prejudice and shocking discoveries need to be told to the end to understand how a simple misunderstanding can reveal secrets capable of completely rewriting the fate of 2 lives forever. In the days following the resignation, Maya found that Robert Harrison's cruelty had only begun. When she tried to get her last week's of salary from the company's office, the secretary informed her with a fake smile that the payment had been suspended pending investigation of possible damage to the property. What damage? Maya asked, keeping her calm despite the growing indignation. The Ming dish valued at $3,000, replied the secretary, consulting a folder. Mr. Harrison decided to discount the value of his final salary. Maya knew that dish costing a maximum of $50. I had seen the label when it landed months ago, but Robert was using her power to humiliate her even more, knowing that she had no resources to legally contest. Things got worse when Maya tried to find a new job. He found that Robert had spread rumors about her throughout the community of rich employers in the region. Thief, not reliable, problematic. These words followed it as shadows in each interview. During a routine prenatal consultation, Dr. Martinez noticed the evident stress in Maya's face. His pressure levels are worrying, he said, frowning. You need to avoid extreme stress situations. Carrying twins is already challenging enough. Twins. The word echoed in Maya's mind as a bell. She had not told anyone yet, not even her sister Rosa, who also worked as a maid in the same region. The ultrasound had revealed 2 small hearts beating, 2 lives that depended completely from her. That night, in his small apartment in a bedroom, Maya looked at the accumulated accounts at the kitchen table. Rental, light, water, medical appointments. Everything stacked like a mountain impossible to climb. She put her hands on her still discreet belly and whispered, "I'll find a way, I promise." It was when it received an unexpected connection. It was Jennifer Walsh, Robert Harrison's best friend and wife of one of her company's partners. "Maya, I heard you are looking for work," said Jennifer with a voice that dripped false sympathy. "Too bad what happened, but you know how Robert is perfectionist. He just can't tolerate certain attitudes." What Jennifer didn't know was that Maya had cleaned her home several times as a substitute and heard revealing conversations. Conversations about how Jennifer and Robert manipulated contracts, how they had fun humiliating lower-class employees, about how they saw people like Maya. "I have a position available," Jennifer continued. "Obviously, it would be for less money considering your situation, and I would need very detailed references about your honesty." Maya closed her eyes, breathing deep. "Thanks for the offer, Mrs. Walsh, but I'll have to refuse." "Refuse?" Jennifer laughed. "Maya, honey, you are not exactly in a position to refuse anything. Robert told me about your minor problems, about you were so desperate that you started stealing food." "I never stole anything." "Of course not." Jennifer's voice was loaded with sarcasm. "Look, I'll be straightforward. No one else will hire her after what Robert has spread over you. This may be your only chance." After turning off the phone, Maya sat on the floor of her apartment and for the first time since the resignation, allowed one to cry. But the tears lasted only a few minutes. When he got up, there was something different in his eyes, a cold and calculated determination that your grandmother would have recognized immediately. Maya walked to a small chest stored in the closet and removed a framed diploma, a master's degree in business administration, magna cum laude, University of Manila. Beside, a folder containing certificates that Robert had never dreamed that she had. Fluency in 4 languages, specialization in international management, academic excellence awards. For 3 years she had observed, learned, and silently collected information. He had seen how Robert treated other employees, had listened to his business connections, had witnessed meetings that revealed vulnerabilities in his company that he didn't even dream of existing. And now, looking at her real qualifications for the first time in years, Maya realized that there was something that Robert Harrison would never have. Nothing to lose and everything to win. What Robert didn't know was that the woman he had fired so casually wasn't just a desperate Philippine cleaning lady. He was an experienced strategist who had spent 3 years studying his enemy, collecting his weaknesses, and who now carried within himself the most powerful motivation that exists: the future of 2 children who deserved a better world. Every insult Robert had released, every door he had closed, every humiliation he had imposed was feeding a strength that grew in silence. And as he celebrated his little cruel victory, Maya was already 3 steps ahead, planning something that would turn that apparent defeat into the origin of her greatest achievement. 2 weeks after the humiliating resignation, Maya was sitting in a modest cafeteria in the city center, watching the movement of people by the window. There was something different in his gaze now, a cold determination that had replaced the previous vulnerability. In his bag, he carried a folder that Robert never imagined that existed. During the 3 years working at the Harrison mansion, Maya had done something that none of the others had thought of doing. She had documented everything. Telephone conversations that Robert considered private, business meetings at home, documents left carelessly on tables, all carefully registered and filed. Maya Santos? A male voice interrupted her. She looked up and saw a tall man about 40 with a kind smile and smart eyes. "I'm David Chen of the Mackenzie & Associate law firm. I received your call." David Chen was not any lawyer. It was known for accepting impossible cases and turning them into spectacular victories. Most importantly, he had a history of bringing down arrogant tycoons that abused his power. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Chen," Maya said, gesturing for him to sit down. "I know my case may seem simple, an unfairly fired maid, but there is much more involved." David studied Maya's face, immediately realizing that she was facing someone much smarter and prepared than the situation suggested. "Tell me everything." Maya opened the folder and began to reveal 3 years of meticulous observation, photographs of confidential documents that Robert left scattered, audio recordings of conversations where he admitted questionable business practices, evidence of systematic discrimination against Philippine and Latin employees. "This is," David paused, flipping through the documents. "This is a cool gold mine. How did you get all this?" "Robert Harrison saw me like furniture," Maya responded with a wry smile. "Invisible people hear many things, and underestimated people have time to prepare." But there was something Maya had not yet revealed even to David. That morning, she had received the results of the last prenatal exam, not only confirming that he carried twins, but revealing something that would completely change the game: the paternity test discreetly requested months ago. 3 years earlier, during a business trip to the Philippines, Robert Harrison had met Maya in a hotel bar. She was then a junior executive in a multinational company, participating in the same business conference. One night, some drinks, a conversation about corporate strategies that impressed Robert, and a meeting that both agreed to keep discreet. Maya had never planned to see him again, but when he discovered his pregnancy months later and realized that he needed a job urgently, he remembered the business card Robert had left. She knew he wouldn't recognize her. After all, she had been makeup, with loose hair, wearing elegant clothes. As a cleaning lady, with straight hair and simple clothes, she was completely different. "There's one more thing," Maya said, taking a sealed envelope from her bag. "Something that will transform this case of simple labor discrimination into something much bigger." David opened the envelope and his eyes widened. The paternity test was undeniable. Robert Harrison. It was the father of the twins Maya carried. "My God," David whispered. Did he dismiss the mother of her own children for supposed food theft? The food she was eating for being pregnant with his children? "And there are more," Maya continued, her voice gaining a strength that David had never heard before. "Robert Harrison has a very careful public image. Philanthropist, advocate of labor rights, a member of the Charity Organizations Council. Imagine what would happen if the world found out that he became pregnant a Philippine employee on a business trip and then humiliated and dismissed her without knowing who she really was." At that moment, David realized that he was not just dealing with a case of labor discrimination. He was facing a bomb that would explode all the carefully built reputation of one of the most powerful men in the city. "Maya," David said slowly, "do you realize what this means? It's not just compensation or reintegration. This can completely destroy Robert Harrison." "I don't want to destroy him," Maya responded with a frightening calm. "I want justice. I want him to recognize his children. I want him to pay for every humiliation, every racist insult, every moment he treated me as if I were less than human. And I want the world to see who he really is behind this facade of successful and charitable man." While David studied the documents, Maya allowed a small smile. Robert Harrison had spent 3 years underestimating her, treating her as a piece of furniture, assuming that a Philippine cleaning lady could never represent a threat. He had no idea that the woman who had fired so casually was the same smart executive who had impressed in Manila. "I did not know that she had spent 3 years collecting evidence of her questionable practices, and I definitely didn't dream that it carried within it 2 small beings who shared their DNA. The most ironic of all was that Robert had created his own destruction. Each racist insult, every gesture of contempt, every moment of arrogance, had been fuel for Maya's determination. He had turned a situation that could have been discreetly resolved into a battle that was about to consume everything he had built. While leaving the coffee shop with David discussing legal strategies, Maya felt the first movements of babies in her womb, as if they knew that it was finally time for their father to find out who they really were, and the price they would pay for their arrogance and prejudice. The final confrontation happened in a way that Robert Harrison could never have predicted. On Monday morning, he arrived at his executive office on the 40th floor, as he always did, confident in his impeccable routine. Brazilian premium coffee, financial newspaper, meeting with investors at 9 in the morning. What Robert didn't know was that Maya and David Chen had spent the weekend preparing something that would turn that ordinary Monday into her life. The first bomb exploded at 8:47 a.m. when his secretary entered the office with his face pale. "Mr. Harrison has a Maya Santos at the reception saying he has a meeting scheduled with you." Robert almost choked on the coffee. "What the hell is this woman doing here? Call security." "Sir," the secretary hesitated. "She is accompanied by a lawyer and said that if you do not receive it, they go straight to the press with documents that, well, that may compromise your reputation." That's when Robert realized that he had completely underestimated the situation. Maya was not just a desperate cleaning lady begging for a job. She had arrived dressed like the executive she really was, with organized documents and a lawyer that Robert immediately recognized as David Chen, the same one who had destroyed 3 other CEOs in corporate scandals. 5 minutes, Robert growled, and that's fast. When Maya entered her office, Robert felt something strange. There was something familiar on that face, in that confident posture, but the memory remained hazy, like a picture out of focus. "Mr. Harrison," Maya said calmly, placing a folder on the mahogany table. "3 years ago at a conference in Manila, you met an executive in a hotel bar. They talked about market strategies, took some drinks, spent a night together." Robert's blood froze. Slowly, the pieces began to fit in. His face, voice, the intelligence he had realized even when she was just a cleaning lady. Your voice came out like a hoarse whisper. "I'm Maya, an executive graduated from the University of Manila, an international management specialist. And I am also the Philippine cleaning lady that you fired 3 weeks ago for allegedly stealing food." Maya opened the folder and withdrew the first document. "Food I was beginning because I'm 8 weeks pregnant. Of twins. Your twins." Robert felt the world turn around him. David Chen took advantage of the shock moment to put the paternity test on the table. Robert's 3-year recordings making racist comments and photographs of confidential documents that he had scattered in the mansion. "This is not everything," Maya continued with a scary calm. "For 3 years, while you treated me as a furniture, I documenting every business call at home, every meeting where questionable practices discussed, every moment when it showed racial discrimination against employees." Robert tried to get up, but his legs didn't support him. "This is blackmail. You can't—" "It's not blackmail when it's justice," David Chen interrupted, placing more documents on the table. "It's exposure of the truth. Maya has evidence that you systematically discriminate against Philippine and Latin employees, pays different wages for the same nationality-based work, and uses your position to humiliate people who consider inferior." At that moment, Robert's phone rang. It was his press assistant, the voice-laden voice. "Mr. Harrison, all the city's main newspapers just received a complete dossier about discriminatory practices in his company. The media is exploding." Robert looked at Maya with a mix of horror and admiration. "How did you get all this?" "Invisible people hear many things," Maya responded with a wry smile, "and underestimated people have a lot of time to prepare." The second call came 2 minutes later. The investor council was calling an emergency meeting. The third call was from his hysterical wife, saying that reporters were camped in front of his house. "What do you want?" Robert asked, his arrogance finally crumbling. "Official recognition of paternity, adequate pension for children, compensation for the 3 years of unjustly low wages, and a public retraction admitting their discriminatory practices," Maya listed calmly. "Or I can let the media tell the story of the philanthropist CEO who pregnant a Philippine employee and fired her for stealing food she ate for being pregnant with his children." Robert realized he was completely trapped. Each racist word, every gesture of contempt, every moment of arrogance had been documented by someone he had considered too insignificant to represent a threat. The most devastating was to realize that Maya was not just seeking revenge. She was performing a meticulously built plan for 3 years of silent observation, turning each humiliation into fuel into a perfect justice strategy. While signing the documents David Chen put before him, Robert Harrison finally understood the difference between real power and apparent power. He had confused money and social position with superiority, when in fact it had been surpassed in intelligence and strategy by someone who had underestimated since day one. The woman he had casually fired for stealing food had revealed himself not only as the mother of his children, but as the architect of his own destruction, a devastating lesson about the price of arrogance and prejudice. 6 months later, Maya Santos walked through the mirrored corridors of the new corporate building she had acquired in the city center. His international consulting firm grew exponentially. serving executives who sought ethical management strategies, exactly the opposite of everything Robert Harrison represented. "Mrs. Santos, Mr. Chen is in line 1, announced his assistant. David had become not only his lawyer, but a partner in several ventures that were born of the devastating victory over Robert. Through the 35th floor windows, Maya could see the headquarters of Robert's old company, now with a "sold" sign in front. The investigation that followed his exhibition had revealed a corruption network that led Robert not only to bankruptcy, but to a 5-year conviction for tax fraud and systematic labor discrimination. The twins who grew up in their womb had become involuntary symbols of a larger victory. The media had transformed history into a milestone on social justice, immigrant rights, and the importance of recognizing the true value of people regardless of their social position. Jennifer Walsh, Robert's former arrogant friend, had lost not only the social position but also her husband, who asked for divorce after discovering her involvement in the discriminatory schemes. Now he worked as a saleswoman at a department store, an irony that has not gone unnoticed by anyone who knew his previous obsession with status. "Maya," David said on the phone, "I just received the confirmation. Robert was officially declared in personal bankruptcy. The mansion goes to auction next week." Maya felt a quiet but not cruel satisfaction. Justice had been done, but she had chosen to build something positive with her victory instead of simply destroying. In the drawer of his executive table, he kept a letter he had received 2 weeks earlier. It was from Robert, written from prison where he fulfilled his sentence. Few lines asking for forgiveness, finally recognizing that he had judged badly not only Maya, but dozens of other people throughout his career. He admitted that arrogance and prejudice had destroyed not only the lives of others, but their own existence. Maya never responded to the letter, but neither did she discard her. It was a reminder that even blind people can eventually see, although sometimes it is too late to repair the damage caused. That afternoon, while ending contracts to open branches in Manila and Sao Paulo, Maya received an unexpected call. It was from Harvard University, offering a position as a visiting professor of international business ethics. Its history had inspired not only legal changes, but academic transformations about how business schools address diversity and prejudice in the corporate environment. "I will accept," Maya told the rector, "but with one condition. I want half of the scholarships to be intended for first-generation immigrant students." That night, in his apartment that had turned into an elegant but welcoming coverage, Maya prepared the baby's room. On the walls, diplomas and certifications that Robert never knew that she had divided space with photographs of her family in the Philippines, and the first newspaper article about her legal victory. His twins would be born in a world where his mother had proved that intelligence and determination always triumph over arrogance and prejudice. They would grow up knowing that carrying the surname Santos meant honor, justice, and the courage to face anyone who tried to reduce their value. Robert Harrison had tried to humiliate a Philippine cleaning lady and was eventually destroyed by one of the brightest minds he had ever found. His arrogance blinded him to the reality that true superiority does not come from social position or bank account, but of character, intelligence, and the ability to treat all human beings with dignity. Maya has learned that the best revenge is not to stoop to the level of those who harm you, but raise so loud that they become irrelevant. While Robert was off in prison, lost in late regrets, she built an empire based on the values he had despised: respect, inclusion, and the belief that each person deserves to be judged by his true potential. Maya Santos's story has proved that sometimes justice takes time, but when she arrives, she completely rewrites the rules of the game, and that underestimating someone based on prejudice is not only morally wrong, it's the most expensive mistake a person can make. If you know someone who has already been underestimated because of its origin, color, or social position, share this story. And if you have already faced prejudice yourself, remember, your biggest victory will be to prove that they were completely wrong about who you really are. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that show how true justice happens when intelligence finds determination.